Dallas this morning, just not the one you're waiting for. Yesterday, they got Amari Cooper back, the Cowboys did. He returned to practice for the first time in almost a month after dealing with a heel injury. Still no sign of Ezekiel Elliott and no real word on that. There was a signing, however, this morning. Adam Schefter reporting the Cowboys and offensive tackle Lyle Collins reach agreement on a 5-year extension that'll tie him to the Cowboys for the next 6 seasons and will make him one of the NFL's 5 highest paid right tackles. So with the Collins extension, the Cowboys have now given out 3 notable extensions to key players, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, and now Collins. Of course, the big news here is that Zeke Elliott, not yet. Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, not yet. So the money runs out at some point. Now, clearly, they can figure this out however they wish to. But what should we make of the fact that they're signing all these guys to deals and Zeke Elliott is still in Cabo?
Yeah, at some point the money runs out. This means that they have Tyron Smith, their left tackle, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, their right guard, and now Collins, all signed through 2023. They have a ton of money invested in their offensive line. Honestly, this seems like a thing from Jerry Jones going, Zeke, I'm telling you, you're not as important to our team as you may think. That's in this moment, that's the only way I feel. And if I'm Zeke, I'm grabbing my phone and calling my agent going, what's going on? How is everybody else getting paid besides me? Not only Zeke, but Dak as well.
Why is anyone surprised that Jerry Jones is mismanaging his franchise? It's his franchise. He can do whatever he wants.
What's he mismanaging?
Well, he's making the wrong decision. I mean, I would have gotten Zeke in there first. He's a critical player. They're not going to the deep in the playoffs to the Super Bowl without him. And why do you keep insulting? Why do you keep kicking sand in his face?
Yeah, that's why if I'm Zeke, I've got to have a conversation because I'm getting thrown for the loop here because at some point we heard the talks were intensifying, right? That over the weekend and now we're 6 days away or 5 days away from a game being played. And I'm sitting there expecting to get a contract, but yet another person, another teammate of mine. So here's the thing. You can't tell me the money's not there because I have empirical data that you gave it to someone else.
I can keep telling you what I've been telling you from the beginning. Ezekiel Elliott is a brilliant player and the most important player on that team, but he has no leverage. He cannot ever become a free agent without coming back and playing for the Cowboys. So at some point, whatever it is they are willing to give him, he's going to have to take. There's no other way that this thing can end. And I've been saying that now for weeks. I think it's going to play out in the next couple of days. Meanwhile, 2 days from now is when the NFL season begins. It is the 100th season of the National Football League, and so they will kick it off at Soldier Field with their oldest rivalry. Packers-Bears meeting for the 199th time. Packers lead the all-time series 97-95. Of course, the Bears, since last you saw them, parted ways with their kicker Cody Parkey, that double doink that cost them in the playoffs last year. They announced Eddie Pinheiro will be their kicker. Meanwhile, for Green Bay, it's the first time that we will see Aaron Rodgers in a new offense with a new coach since he became the starter in 2008. Here's what that coach, Matt LaFleur, has to say.
We've given him, all the freedom. So if he sees something and he's got the green light to do whatever he needs to do to get us into a good play, we're not going to take that from him.
Now, in a perfect world, Rodgers won't have to do this alone. Over the last 2 years, no team has run the ball less frequently than Green Bay, just 31% of their snaps. Each of LaFleur's last 2 offenses in Tennessee and before that the Rams ranked in the top 5 in design rush percentage. So not everything, it seems, will be on Rodgers' shoulders. Let's go live to Green Bay. Our NFL reporter, Rob Domofsky, is there at Packers practice. Rob, you just heard what Matt LaFleur said. What does this mean for Rodgers and the offense?
Well, it was a little bit of a stunning revelation yesterday, Greeny, when he said that because there had been a summer's worth of angst about just how much freedom Rodgers would have in this new offense. Remember, under the McCarthy system, Rodgers basically had carte blanche to change plays whenever he wanted. It worked out well at times, and other times it caused friction. And this offense, the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan system, didn't have a lot of audibles built into it. But Rodgers told me earlier this summer in an interview that he said, look, it's about trust. It's about him trusting me, and it's about me trusting that he's going to get us in the right play. But what this does, Greeny, is it clears up the issue going into Thursday that, yes, Rodgers does have freedom at the line of scrimmage. The one thing we don't know, though, is just how much of the new offense that he's comfortable with. Remember, he did not play a single snap in the preseason, spent the entire preseason right next to LaFleur on the sideline, no on-field action. So we really don't know just how much of the volume of the playbook he has at his disposal at this point.
And we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. That's an excellent point. Rob, thank you very much. Stay dry. It sounds like it's raining all around you there, and we will see you as the week
Thanks,
progresses.
Greeny.
I want to bring this over here because, listen, I spent all of last season here having one after another person tell me the offense isn't creative enough. Mike McCarthy's not doing enough to help Aaron Rodgers. He has to do it all by himself. They never run the ball. So now they bring in a creative new offensive coach. I have to believe this is going to work, and it's going to work huge.
Well, I was one of those people, but I also threw another variable and bet that the talent around him wasn't good enough. They had not drafted enough skill players, and that's my hiccup for this offense moving forward is the same guys that were there last year are going to be the same guys that are there this year, minus Equanimeous St. Brown, who's been put on IR. But if you talk about a week one draw that's not great for a new head coach, it's Chicago.
Yeah.
And that's Thursday night looking at this game. That's a concern of mine because you look at Chicago's defense, first of all, what they did to the Rams last year, which is going to be the same offensive system. But they've got dominant players at each level. Eddie Jackson on the back end is one of the dominant safeties in football right now. Roquan Smith at linebacker. Eddie Jackson, who's a turnover machine and always around the football. Roquan Smith, one of the dominant linebackers in the NFL. And then Khalil Mack, one of the dominant guys on the edge. We're talking about 3 levels of dominant football that you have to open up your head coaching career with some talent on the outside that's not great right now.
Bears defense should be great again. They were first in the league last year, points allowed, first in turnovers. They lose their coordinator, Vic Fangio. We'll see how much of a loss that is. The question is on the other side of the ball. Do you trust Mitchell Trubisky in a conference filled with huge name star quarterbacks to go toe-to-toe with some of those guys if he needs to and win the NFC?
I do, and it's not because I just trust Mitchell Trubisky. I trust Matt Nagy and the people around him. I said, I was outspoken, I thought highly of Trubisky going into last year. For a quarterback, when you finally get a coach that understands you and understands play calling, it's like getting LASIK surgery. All of a sudden, you can see clearly. And this is a team that's added David Montgomery, a draft pick out of Iowa State. They added Riley Ridley in the 4th round, a draft pick out of Georgia. And Allen Robinson, the big receiver from Jacksonville, 2nd year off the ACL. He's going to have a better year. Trey Burton's still there. So it's trusting Mitchell Trubisky and everybody that's around him.
It's a conference with Wentz and Breeze and Rodgers and Wilson and Goff. That's just off the top of my head. So it's going to be interesting to see if that defense holds up and if the offense can do enough for a Bears team a lot of people love. All right, that's Thursday night. Now we look ahead to the weekend where one of the most intriguing games, maybe of the whole season, comes up with Clemson taking on Texas A&M in Death Valley. This is a game a lot of people have been pointing to as a spot they could lose. And listen to A&M offensive lineman Jared Hocker.
You guaranteeing victory?
I'm pretty confident in my ability and our team's ability, so there will be an upset.
All right, so he's saying there's going to be an upset. I kind of like the moxie there. Might be a bad idea, though, to poke the Tiger. Clemson last season was able to win 13 of their games by 20 or more points, the most in a single season since the AP poll was created in 1936. Their closest game last year was against the Aggies. That was a 26-24 win. Very quickly, is this a spot that we could see Clemson get tripped up?
I don't
if
think
we're looking for a loss.
And in the pantheon of guaranteed wins, that was on the very low end. I don't blame him for saying that. I think it could be an interesting game, but I don't think A&M is ready to go there and win this game.
Do you think Jimbo Fisher is upset that one of his players sort of guaranteed to win?
I don't think so. I talked to Jimbo last night, and he seemed loose. And by the way, Jimbo and Dabo, this is an incredible rivalry to keep your eye on. They've been going at it since Florida State and Clemson. And Jimbo Fisher, to me, is one of the singular best coaches in the country.
So let's analyze that for a minute. Dabo Swinney has built arguably the best program in college football right now. Bama's been doing it longer. Saban's been doing it longer, so give him his due. But you have to give Dabo Swinney all the credit in the world. You can't do it any better than he's doing it at Clemson. But from a game standpoint, in a game, you taking Jimbo or you taking Dabo?
Oh, it's not close. And that's not a knock on Dabo. He has built a great staff. He has Venables. He has 2 offensive co-coordinators. But Jimbo Fisher is an amazing play caller. He was the offensive coordinator under Saban that won a national championship. He guided Jameis Winston. I would take Dabo on a one-off any day.
There's 2 things in this game that I find fascinating when it comes to the coaches. Jimbo Fisher was brought to Texas A&M for this game. He was brought to Texas A&M, paid all that money. They invested a ton in their facilities to go win this game. That is the expectation level down there now. And also, Jimbo Fisher cut his teeth mainly recruiting in the Southeast. Texas A&M really hasn't ever recruited in the Southeast. Jimbo now has nonstop flights, and this matters in recruiting, from Atlanta into College Station via Delta. This game is going to have huge impact on recruiting as well, and it's going to be fascinating the impact it could have moving forward.
Can I just make sure I understand what you're saying? Are you telling me that Jimbo Fisher right now is booking a flight on Delta to go recruit kids? Isn't he making $85 million a year? Families are coming to Texas A&M.
Yeah, kids that come from the Southeast.
His hiring helped push Delta to coordinate that.
Okay.
So, and if you've flown into College Station, that's a big deal.
And that has impact in recruiting.
Yeah, it does.
Families can go see their kids play.
Jimbo's on a Lear. Don't worry.
I just have a feeling you're not going to see Jimbo Fisher in seat 22D right now on that nonstop from Atlanta.
Comfort Plus.
Jimbo's not in Group 9 on Delta.
Is he paying extra for the leg room? I'm not sure how that is working. Anyway, let us get up and go. And Get Up and Go is brought to you by Miralax. Jadeveon Clowney, practicing with Seattle yesterday, says he expects to play Sunday despite missing all of training camp. Dan, how big is an addition of he in Seattle?
Oh, he's massive. This puts Seattle's front seven with Poona Ford and potentially Ziggy Ansah, depending on his health, right at the top of front sevens in the NFL. Andy Dalton would like you not to play this weekend if you could. Jadeveon Clowney, Cincinnati, still rebuilding their offensive line. But if Jadeveon Clowney is healthy and Ziggy Ansah is healthy, with Poona Ford on the inside and Wagner running around and KJ Wright running around, this defense, especially their front seven, is going to be vicious.
Mark my words, they're going to win the NFC